Have you ever noticed this? Friday night. A text lights up the screen. Coming out tonight? And there's this one type of person. They look at it. 3 seconds. Maybe 4. Then they set the phone face down on the table and go back to what they were doing. No reply. Not even a maybe. Now, most people would call that rude, cold, and asocial. But I want you to sit with something for a second. That tiny motion, the phone going face down, the silence that follows, might be one of the most quietly powerful things a person can do. Because here's what nobody tells you. The people who can let a message sit there unanswered without feeling a shred of guilt about it. They're not broken. They've built something most people never managed to build. And today, we're not going to talk about people with few friends in general. We're going to zoom into that one exact moment. Phone face down, silence, no reply, and pull it apart, layer by layer. Because by the end of this, you will never look at that small, ordinary moment the same way again. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you scrolled through your phone and saw someone's weekend? Group photos. 10 people crammed into a bar booth. A story with 40 replies stacking up in the comments. We've been trained to read that as proof of a good life. Lots of people around you. That means you're winning. So naturally, if you're the one leaving the message on read, staying home, watching the notification badge just sit there, it starts to feel like you're falling behind. Like something's wrong with you. But here's something worth sitting with. Charles Darwin's biggest ideas didn't arrive in a crowded room. They arrived quietly, while he was alone, at a desk, with nothing but a notebook and his own thoughts. He wasn't left out of anything. He was somewhere else. On purpose. So here's the real question this video is going to answer. That pause isn't empty. It's where an entire personality quietly reveals itself. And that's exactly where we're going next. Let's go back to that moment. Phone face down. No reply. Here's what almost nobody says out loud. The easiest thing in the world is to say yes. Yes to the invite. Yes to the plan you didn't actually want. Yes, just so nobody thinks you're difficult, or distant, or too much to deal with. Most people say yes on autopilot. Not because they want to go, but because saying no feels heavier than showing up somewhere they don't want to be. So when someone looks at that text and lets it sit there unanswered, they're doing something most people have quietly forgotten how to do. They're telling the truth, just not out loud. The phone stays face down because, underneath it, there was never a real yes to give. And that's the part that gets misunderstood. People assume the silence means something is missing. No friends, no invites, no plans. But watch closely, and it's the opposite. The silence is a boundary. A quiet, unspoken one. But a boundary all the same. Marcus Aurelius wrote something almost 2,000 years ago that fits this moment perfectly. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. He wasn't talking about phones. But he was talking about exactly this. The gap between who you perform for others and who you actually are when no one's watching. That gap closes for the person on the couch tonight. It rarely closes for the person out at the bar, laughing at a joke they didn't find funny because everyone else was laughing too. Now here's the part people really don't expect. Watch what happens the moment someone leaves that message unanswered. Nothing happens. No crisis. No spiral. No frantic rechecking of the phone every 5 minutes to see if anyone noticed they didn't come. And that nothing is actually the whole point. Because for a lot of people, silence like that would be unbearable. They'd start wondering, are they mad at me? Do they think I'm boring now? Should I text back with an excuse? The need to be seen, to be included, to be picked, it runs deeper in most people than they'd ever admit. But the person on the couch tonight isn't running that calculation. Their sense of being okay doesn't wait for 3 little dots to appear on a screen. It's just a person, alone, on a Friday, completely unbothered by the fact that the world is somewhere else tonight. Nobody claps for it. Nobody posts it. It just happens, quietly, in a living room with the TV off and the phone still face down. Now, to be fair, not everyone who stays home is independent. Sometimes people stay home because they're afraid. Afraid of being judged, afraid of not fitting in, afraid of showing up and being reminded they don't belong. The difference isn't where someone spends their Friday night. It's what they feel while they're there. One version of staying home is hiding. The other is choosing. And the second one, nobody spirals into overnight. Some people spend years learning it, one small, unremarkable Friday at a time. Others don't even realize they've been practicing it. Every single time they chose peace over performance and just never called it anything. About that unanswered text. It wasn't the first invite this month. Probably not even the first one this week. And that matters, because it tells you something the silence alone doesn't. This isn't someone who never gets asked. This is someone who gets asked and still says no, more often than most people would ever risk saying it. Think about what that actually costs. Every no changes something. Maybe not today, maybe not even this month. But every no is a small bet. A bet that the friendship can survive you not showing up. A bet that you won't be quietly moved to the bottom of someone's list for turning them down one too many times. Most people won't make that bet. So they say yes to the plans, the people, the nights out that don't really feed them, just to avoid finding out what happens if they don't. The person on the couch already knows the answer, and they've decided it's worth the risk. Not because they don't want people in their life, because they've stopped accepting just any people into it. There's an old idea about this, dressed up in a very unglamorous comparison. Picture a chef at the top of their craft, walking through a kitchen full of ingredients. They run their fingers across vegetables they never buy, smell herbs they never use, walk past shelves stacked with perfectly good things, nothing wrong with any of it, still waiting. Waiting for the one thing that makes the whole meal worth cooking. That's not arrogance. It's a refusal to waste the meal. Friendship works the same way, whether we admit it or not. Fill your life with everyone who's willing to show up, and most nights taste like nothing. Wait for the few who actually belong there, and even a quiet Friday starts to feel like enough. Now, a word of caution here, because this one gets misused a lot. Selectivity is not the same thing as pushing everyone away and calling it standards. Some people don't have a small circle because they're choosing carefully. They have a small circle because every time someone got close, they found a reason to let it fall apart. The real difference is simple, even if it's hard to admit. Are you protecting your peace, or just protecting yourself from ever being let down again? One of those is selectivity. The other one just looks like it, from a distance. So the phone is face down. The invite is gone, buried under other notifications by now. And the night stretches out, empty, in front of them. Here's the question most people never ask. What actually happens in a mind that isn't being filled with anyone else's noise? Because that's the part everyone skips over. We imagine the silence, and we assume nothing is happening in it. Empty room, empty night, empty person. But sit with someone in that kind of silence for long enough, and you start to notice something strange. They're not bored. They're not waiting for the night to be over. Maybe you've done this yourself. Sat on the couch, stared at the ceiling, and somehow, 20 minutes later, found yourself thinking about something that happened when you were 12 years old. Something you hadn't thought about in years, that just showed up, uninvited, because for once nothing else was competing for the space. That's what's actually happening in that silence. There's an image worth holding on to here. Picture a house with most of its rooms locked. Not because there's anything hidden in them, just because no one's ever had a reason to go in. Most people live in the hallway. A few rooms near the front door get all the use. The person alone tonight has been walking further into the house, finding rooms they didn't know were there, sitting in them long enough to notice what's actually inside. That's not the same thing as loneliness. Loneliness is standing in an empty hallway, wishing someone would walk through the door. This is someone finally exploring the rest of the house. Now, it's worth being honest about the other side of this too. Not all silence is reflection. Sometimes a quiet night alone isn't someone walking deeper into themselves. It's someone avoiding a room they're afraid to open. Replaying the same 3 thoughts on a loop is an introspection. It's just noise with the volume turned down. So the real question isn't whether you're alone tonight. It's whether the silence is taking you somewhere or just keeping you circling the same spot. Here's something that doesn't show up right away. It takes months, sometimes years. But eventually, the person who kept choosing the couch over the crowd starts to notice something has changed in them, and they can't quite pinpoint when. Conversations that used to rattle them don't anymore. A friend's dramatic weekend story, told with all the urgency in the world, and they just listen calmly, without needing to top it, or fix it, or make it about something in their own life. They notice things other people miss. The way someone's tone shifts half a second before they say something they don't fully believe. The exhaustion behind a "I'm fine." The performance in a room full of people all performing at once. Maybe you felt this too. That strange moment at a party where everyone's laughing, the music's loud, and for just a second you feel completely outside of it. Not sad, not left out, just watching, like you're seeing the room instead of being swept up in it. That feeling has a name, even if nobody tells you what it is. Seneca wrote something over 2,000 years ago that fits it exactly. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. He wasn't talking about parties or group chats, but he was talking about exactly this. The strange fact that the very things that feel like a loss in the moment are often what quietly builds something permanent underneath. Picture two people standing at the edge of the same valley. One has spent years in it, always in the noise, always in motion, never quite stepping back far enough to see the shape of the whole thing. The other spent a lot of Friday nights climbing, alone, without realizing that's what they were doing. From the top, the valley looks smaller. Not because it stopped mattering, but because you can finally see where it ends. Now, here's the part worth being careful with. Not everyone who spends years alone ends up on that hill. Some people just spend years alone. The climbing only happens if the solitude is used for something. Noticed, questioned, turned over, and looked at from different angles. Without that, alone is just alone. No view, no growth, just time passing in a quiet room. So the real question isn't how many Friday nights you've spent by yourself. It's what you did with them while you were there. So let's go back to where we started. Friday night. A text lighting up a screen. A phone turning face down on the table. If you've ever done that, and felt a small flicker of guilt about it, like you owed someone an explanation for choosing quiet over noise, I want to say something to you directly. You weren't missing out. You were somewhere else. On purpose. And if any part of tonight's video felt a little too familiar, the couch, the silence, the unanswered text, that's not a coincidence, and it's definitely not a flaw. Maybe nobody's ever told you this, so let it be said plainly, once. The people who learn to be alone without falling apart in it haven't stumbled onto some rare gift. They've simply learned something, through practice, through a lot of ordinary Friday nights, that many people never get the chance to learn at all. You're not the only one who's put a phone face down and felt, just for a second, completely at peace with it. There are more of you than you'd guess. Just, quietly, in separate rooms, on separate Friday nights, never quite realizing they're part of the same story. If tonight's video felt like it was describing something you already knew about yourself, but had never heard said out loud, that's really the only reason this channel exists. If it helped, even a little, a like tells me to keep making more of these. And if you know someone who's spent more Friday nights on the couch than they'd like to admit, maybe send this their way. Not as a hint, just as a way of saying, you're not the only one. Subscribe if you want to keep sitting with these small, quiet moments, the ones most people scroll past without ever really looking at. The next time your phone lights up and you feel that 3-second pause before you decide how to answer it, notice it. There's more going on in those 3 seconds than most people ever stop to realize. Thanks for spending this 7 minutes here instead of somewhere louder. See you in the next one.